Earth is being bombarded with supremely high frequency energies. This planet was and forever will be the Garden of Eden. And a lot of our matrix programming comes from a couple of types of aliens. These things are more of like a karmic blueprint of the planets that we have incarnated on. This is what the satanic agenda is. If we didn't use our phones so much, our telepathic powers would come back online rather quickly. The purveyors of the matrix understand this very well. I want to make sure that everyone is equipped with the supreme metaphysical teachings so they can then transcend all of this programming and then actually own their own life.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another interview on the RJ Spina channel. I'm joined with a special guest. I got RJ here with me. RJ, how's it going? Happy New Year. RJ, you had some work done.
Those are extras from our Christmas special. I couldn't make that work with the fake Santa beard. How are you doing, Justin?
I'm doing good. 2025 is getting off to a good start. Can you believe it's been a year already since we did one of these?
Yeah, time flies.
Anyway, in this one, we're going to get into a lot of topics, a lot of things that have been going on. A lot has transpired already. We're only, as we're recording this, about 13 days into January, and a lot's going on. So, RJ, hopefully you can break down a lot of this stuff for us. Now, yesterday, we did a global meditation. If you guys missed that, be sure to check it out on a lot of the weather stuff that was going on, weather relief. It was absolutely incredible. And if you guys haven't signed up for the global meditations already, highly recommend. It'll be linked in the comment section description. But before we jump into this one, RJ has two really cool things coming up that we're working on. So you want to tell them a little bit about it, RJ?
Yeah. Actually, three things. The first one is I'm almost done handing in my fourth book that'll come out in about a year from now. So I've been really focused on that. But in terms of something that we can all avail ourselves of much sooner rather than later, there are two new courses I'm going to be doing. One is going to be on the metaphysics of money manifestation. I want people to finally learn how this really works because the teachings that are out there they don't work. So this will dispel a lot of what is going on and actually provide the proper guidance. So that's the metaphysics of money manifestation. That's coming up. And then my first full course, I guess we could say, is going to be something called Master the Mystic Arts. So I'm going to reveal all the things, all the different exercises and challenges, bizarre sort of obstacles I would give myself to unlock my higher mind and my higher intuitive functions. And in fact, part of Master the Mystic Arts, I list all the higher intuitive functions. I think I have 12 or 14. I don't remember the exact number, but I break down what they are, and then I give a step-by-step user manual or instruction guide on how to activate and turn on things like clairsentience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, any of the clairs, or if you want to just be called clair. This will give you all of the information and a step-by-step process, and that's just one section in this course that's coming up. I don't have the exact date yet, but it's called Master the Mystic Arts. It's going to be, these two courses are going to be life-altering for anyone who decides to actually invest in themselves.
I'd like to be called Claire for the rest of this interview, if you don't mind, RJ. So,
or A Claire.
Yeah, or Eclair.
Eclair.
Yeah.
Yes.
Either way. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, all those links will be linked in the comment section description. Be sure to check those out if you guys are interested. But let's go ahead and jump right into this. I saved my most important question first, RJ. What firecrackers are best for New Year's Eve?
Well, you caught me off guard with that. I like, well, what I have in the garage that we didn't get through is I do have a couple of bottle rockets. I don't necessarily would say that's the best, but I like the ones that sort of explode into, and then you see all the lights and they just kind of, I don't know what those are called, but they sure are pretty. Those are my favorite. Those are, whatever those are called, those are my favorite.
Okay. I figured we'd get the most pressing stuff out of the way first. Now onto the easy questions. So, RJ, why is 2025 such an important year for all of us?
Well, it's the most important year in human history. Believe it or not, it is. So there's a couple of factors. I think the most important thing we need to realize is that we're at a stage, and we've talked about this before. The Earth is being bombarded for a period of time, even though time doesn't exist, but for a period of time, Earth is being bombarded with supremely high frequency energies. Supremely high frequency energies. So that's really the universe rolling out the red carpet for us to start to work with ourselves in a more advanced or higher frequency way. So this is the time, these next couple of years, this is absolutely the time where we are being bombarded with this. Now, what goes along with that, as we're already seeing, will be the forces are going to be working in overtime in ways that we've never seen before to sort of counterbalance the high frequency energies that we're being bombarded with so we can work with ourselves in a more advanced way. And of course, the systems of control, or the matrix, or however you want to, whatever word you want to use, are going to be working at a level that we have, an unprecedented level, at an unprecedented level. So this year specifically is where there is this decision point, or this source point within ourselves, where we have to make a choice in terms of how we're going to start operating with ourselves. And so that's why 2025, and you're seeing all things, as you just said, we're only 2 weeks in, and there's been some amazing things that have been going on. And this is just the start. This is just the start. But this is the time where everyone chooses how they're going to be working with themselves. Is it going to be more driven by your harvested attention, which is what creates your conditioned and brainwashed mind? Or are we going to learn from detachment, which will give us discernment, which will allow us to work with our higher mind and utilize the energies that we are being presented with in order to ascend the frequencies? And by using these things properly and optimally, which is what all my books, classes, courses, retreats, and workshops and interviews are about, is the ascension by working with yourself. But the key to this is you cannot receive what you don't give. And we have to start to understand that you have to actually invest in yourself. Watching endless videos and just garnering information is not going to do anything. We have to learn to go within and actually utilize the self-control and self-discipline that it takes to focus on the self. And when we focus on the self, that's what unfolds. And as this unfolds, the outer world will reflect that. And by focusing on this, the supreme vibration, we will then emanate that specific frequency, and the outer world will reflect that. And that's the ascension.
Okay, so RJ, I want to go back to the frequencies that are being bombarded on Earth. Who's sending these frequencies, and how do we utilize them? Like, I guess, will this just raise the frequency of Earth, or do we have to be working with ourselves in a certain way in order to take advantage of that?
Okay, well, who is sending the frequencies? I'm not sure if I gave you the answer to that, it would even matter anyway. The key is not to try to figure out the who. It's try to work with yourself optimally, to know yourself, right? That is the one mandate of existence, to know thyself and all thy infinite potential. It's just cyclical. So the analogy I always use, Justin, is like a flower, right? It starts off, then it comes up, opens, fully blooms, right? And then the same process starts to happen again. So this is a cycle. It's the evolution of consciousness. It's a cyclical nature, and we've done this so many times that we're doing this one faster, much faster than we've done any of them before. So it's not really a who that's sending them. It's the nature of the environment, and the nature of consciousness itself is that it goes in cycles. So, and what was the other part of that question?
How do we actually raise our frequency? Is our frequency raised as a consequence of these higher energies, or is there something that we need to do in order to put ourselves in the right place for that to happen?
Well, something you absolutely need to do. So, someone could prepare the greatest meal ever, but if you're not hungry, it's not going to make a bit of difference. So, what I was saying before is that it's kind of like the red carpet is being rolled out. We're being presented with higher frequency energy, which is really our opportunity. This is the the gunshot for the race to begin, for us to start working with ourselves in a more advanced, holistic way. Now, this can get broken down in terms of recognizing the ego mind identity, what it is, and how we are not that. Now, when we stop putting focus on what it is that we are aware of and put focus on the awareness itself. And that's the big switch because we're constantly looking outside of ourselves, researching, garnering information. It's never going to change anything. It's never going to change a thing because that is only your mental body. That's all that is. So when we start to focus on the awareness itself, not what we are aware of, that's when the frequency raises. So our frequency, our body mind complex is attuned to and part of the local environment. The local environment is extremely low frequency. It doesn't get much lower than the bottom three frequencies that band together to give us what we call a three-dimensional reality, even though it's just frequencies of height, weight, and width. So we are at the very bottom three floors of this 400-story high rise. So unless we have some kind of detachment from the body mind complex, we will operate in a very low frequency way because we are immersed within this biological suit or garment, which is part of and attuned to the local environment. So automatically, we are going to have a low frequency experience, which is what it's like to incarnate into the lower frequencies of the physical universe, a low frequency experience. But we are not low frequency beings. In fact, we are the opposite. Now, for us to raise our frequency, we have to detach from the identifications, from the attachments that we've made through the process of incarnation and then societal conditioning and brainwashing. And this has to do with attention, your attention being harvested. So how we operate in a high frequency way is through detachment or non-identification with what it is that we've identified ourselves with since incarnating. So the fastest way to do this is to utilize one of the meditation magic tricks that we talk about, which is to pretend that you just arrived here. No past, no future. Now the real you, the awareness, is now online, right? We're no longer tethered to anything that we've garnered from here, including this. Now, when we can stay in that state of clarity and detachment, you'll feel much better. And by feeling much better, you're more in tune with who you are. And that's the simplest, most direct way to understand in terms of how to work in a high frequency way. We have to have discernment through detachment and non-identification with all that has come since arriving here.
So in a way, RJ, are we like a helium balloon that's like maybe has like little weights on it and all those things are our attachments? Like in reality, we could float as high as we want to, but we're tied down to things.
That's a way. I mean, yeah, that's a way to look at it. I mean, everything that's here. I mean, if we want to know what gravity really is it's the intention from the projection of the higher selves that have projected aspects of themselves from rocks, minerals, plants, insects, animals, narcissists, humans, and aliens, and everything that I didn't mention if I missed anything. It is really the intention from the projection of the higher selves to be here. So gravity really is that force of intention to have an experience of the lower frequencies. So if we if we detach from the identification of what has occurred since we got here, we will operate in a much higher frequency way.
Excellent. Once again, I got to show you guys, be the time-lapse camera, right, RJ? RJ's got specific chapters, specific meditations in here that will help you actually achieve these things. I showed this every interview. I wonder how many people actually pick this book up. I mean, how many times do I got to show it to you to, for you to grab it? The answers are in the book. The book is a study guide. So beautiful stuff, RJ. Now, as we mentioned before, there's been so many different things happening this year. And so, like things imploding, fires, drones, all that good kind of stuff. Is all of this stuff happening as a that evolutionary tension that we kind of talked about to kind of counteract maybe some of that high frequency energy that's coming in?
Yeah, well, we have to refrain from the conditioned mind, which operates in a state of duality, which means that it's this or it's that. Right? It's good or it's bad. It's right or it's wrong. It's black or it's white. Okay, well that is just not how anything is. So there are various agendas that are being played out right now. Some have common interests, some don't, and some have disparate interests. So you're seeing multiple agendas acted out by multiple factions within the matrix. right? So one of the things that it serves, all these different things going on, is obviously a distraction, right? It's to have your attention. And my fourth book is The Law of Attention. It's the secrets, it's the sacred teachings of reality creation, money manifestation, and time travel. That's the upcoming book. Anyway, okay. So through the harvesting of your attention, which is through distractions, you are left in a disempowered reactionary state and a state of not knowing. So essentially, you're just being drained and your attention is on these things, which also means that any agenda can be implanted because we're in that state of trying to figure out. Right. And then this information gets leaked out, or this controlled opposition does an interview and talks about what's going on, or an agent for a 3-letter agency does some interviews or some channeling. And then you think that's really what's going on. So it's really only through detachment that we get discernment, and we can't allow ourselves to have another narrative programmed in, because once more our attention is on something, we draw that into our beingness, and then we actually become a container for that, emanate that frequency, and then it gets built. I hope everyone just listened to what I said. So it's a distraction of various agendas, some with common interests, some with totally disparate interests, and they're kind of fighting over that, fighting over a timeline, fighting over a reality. So the key is to not give your attention, which is energy. Where your attention goes, your energy flows, and whatever your energy is upon grows. So having the energy within and only observing without having a vested interest is actually the most empowering thing that we can do. And then we don't build these dystopian timelines. We don't actually become a container for these narratives, which we then just become a mindless program. The mind is closed, and then you're just running this looped program. And that's really what you see, people just regurgitating what it is that they heard someone else say. And we have to start operating in a completely different way.
How much RG of all these things that happen are just, they happen by happenstance? Or would you say that a lot of these things, like you said, are agendas or things that are purposefully done?
Well, when you say these things, I'm assuming you mean like the Southern California wildfires or things like that. Happenstance? Zero. Absolutely zero. Listen, this planet was, and forever will be the Garden of Eden. It's a paradise. These things are manufactured. They're absolutely manufactured. And often they're manufactured under the guise of natural climate change or natural phenomena. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. These things are a design, a game plan, an agenda, and various ones, all fighting out to see who wins. When really the entire time we have all the power once we learn how to master our attention, desire, and intention, which are the three main components to reality creation.
You mean global warming isn't responsible for all this, RJ? Hard to believe.
Yeah, hard to believe, isn't it? Yeah. Follow the science.
Right. Okay, so what is the best way for us to operate then? Obviously, with all these things going on. I mean, 13 days in, and it just seems like one thing after another every single day. So how do we, maintain our high frequency if all these things are going on?
Never occupy your mind with anything that you can't control. So that means the focus becomes on the self, or the I am, and about operating in a way that is authentic to who and what you really are, which has nothing to do with what's going on in the background. So once we disengage and stop occupying our mind with the distractions, with the various agendas playing themselves out, they have no ammunition, they have no energy, they have no life force to work with unless we give it that. Right? So the example that I always use is think of a relationship, right? You come home from work and you walk right past your partner. You don't say hello. You don't even look at them, right? No communication. You go right into your room. You shut the door. You turn on the TV, and you eat dinner alone, right? Okay, that relationship is going to end really quick. Why? It's not getting any attention, which is energy. So that's what is required. This is why attention is the new oil. That's what this is about. Because what your attention is upon becomes your reality from moment to moment for all eternity. You draw it into your beingness and you become a container and a vessel for that specific frequency. And then you emanate that and then it gets built. Everybody, listen to that part again. So it's about having control over your attention once again. Put the attention on the self, on what you're passionate about, what your true desire is, about being able to express the depth of your love and wisdom, whose subsets are your talents and abilities, to focus on being a creator rather than a consumer. And that is the best way or the highest frequency way to operate.
I feel like we can also see this a lot with the variants that have come as precursors to something else that happened in the past. You know what I mean? They just fall off very quickly because it doesn't seem like they get as much attention as what the big one did, if you will. And of course, I have to speak that way because I don't want anything to happen with this video. So, but that's about right, RJ? Anything that doesn't get our attention just kind of falls away, right?
Yep. Exactly. If it doesn't get traction, they move on to something else. We are the ones that are in complete control of this. We are the ones that are in complete control of this, but we keep acting like we have no control when it's really the opposite. It's the absolute opposite. And if you feel like you're not in control, just say to yourself, I am control. And let yourself feel that. And that will return all your energy to you. And then we reverse this game. And we play it the way we desire to play it.
I am control. That was really good. Now, RJ, we've spoken about this a couple times. I feel like I have to bring it up because 2025, right? Many people, including myself at one point in time, would tune in for predictions of what's to come, what to expect in 2025. Why are we so obsessed about what's going to happen? And does anybody ever even actually know what's going to happen?
My favorite topic. Okay. So, all right. Prophecy and predictions, these are user manuals on how to bring about these realities. Okay. Destiny is always being written from moment to moment for all eternity. And anyone who tells you otherwise has no tangible understanding of what they're talking about or how reality creation actually works. They just read it somewhere. They heard it somewhere. They've been told to say it. They can't tap into it themselves. Destiny is written from moment to moment. The reason why people are obsessed, I don't know if obsessed is the right word. They really haven't been given much options in terms of the so-called spiritual community is just a bunch of predictions for the most part. It puts one in a very disempowered state, and we're in a disempowered state. And so we're seeking some kind of security so we can find out what's going to happen to us, again, of being a consumer rather than a creator. So it too, all these prophecies and predictions and this and that, it's very insidious because you have to be in a disempowered state to even want to reach out to that, seeking some kind of sense of knowingness for a feeling of security that you're going to be okay, realizing that you're the co-creator of your reality. We're the ones that determine this. So again, we have it backwards. We're being a consumer rather than a creator. They're absolutely, utterly useless. They're completely and utterly disempowering in every single way. You determine your reality from moment to moment based upon attention, intention, and desire. End of story. It's got nothing to do with people parading what's going to happen over the next 5 years, 10 years. The one thing I could tell you for sure is that humanity is going to set itself on the course that it most desires to be the experience of, period. Whatever that is. Whatever that is. And if too many of us are just sitting back in this sort of passive state, this receptive state of whatever it is we're being told that's going to happen, and we just go along with it, then things will be difficult because it's not germane to who and what we really are. It's an agenda, various agendas, right? So prediction and prophecy is just total garbage. It's absolute garbage. Destiny is being written from moment to moment. We are that powerful. We are immortal creator beings. And once we stop being a consumer and we stop operating in the way that I'm talking about, there won't be a single soul on this planet that's looking for some kind of prediction to let them know what's going to happen to them.
What's crazy is the most negative predictions usually get the most attention. So, you see how that works.
Justin, that should tell you, by the way, the aspect of the self, right? The reptilian brain, the fear-based, right? The fight or flight reptilian brain, that's what's reaching out to get the predictions, right? And you just said it, the most negative, because it's the most fear-based. It's the most fear-based. And that's that's the motivating factor for this reaching out to find out what's going to happen, because we're in this fear-based reactionary state, which is the reptilian mind. That is not the creator mind. That is the consumer mind. And the switch is going to be what happens. The ascension is the switch. That's what it is. When we start operating in the way that we're talking about, rather in the way that people tuning in and being in this receptive, passive sort of allowing whatever it is to be told that's going to happen to them, and then assimilating that, drawing that into their being, emanating that, and then building that. So yeah, it's not a surprise that the most watched are always the most negative. Fear sells, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, RJ, I was doing some research for this interview, and a couple of the most viewed videos with regards to 2025 were either Simpsons predictions of what were going to happen in 2025 or predictions that the Simpsons were right on. And so my question for you is have you ever heard of the Simpsons? And are they really predicting, or maybe is there something else going on with regards to how they're able to get things right about future events?
Well, I'm actually an executive producer and writer of The Simpsons.
Oh,
No. So I have certainly heard of the Simpsons. I can't say I've watched any of it, but obviously I've certainly heard of it. So it's not that they predict the future. It's really the other way around. It's really the other way around. It's the user manual. This is what we were talking about before. So I'm not going to get into the specifics of the creators of, I mean, who cares? It doesn't matter, right? Never occupy your mind with something that you can't control, right? But it's not that they're predicting the future. They put that out there so we identify with it, resonate with it, be in this passive state and then we emanate that frequency, and then that's what actually gets built. And so that's extremely popular culture is always part of this agenda.
Okay. Excellent. So anyway, so pretty much the same stuff that we've been talking about is going on with that as well. Now, RJ, is it just, we talked a lot about TVs, people predicting the future, things of that nature. Is it every media that we consume is essentially programming us? So music, TV, like anything that we are being the consumer of is programmed for us?
Yeah, literally. That's why they call it, television programming, or it does. It's a certain frequency that encodes within the mind. It gets embedded within the mind, and then it just runs like it. So everything. So we seem to understand this with food easier as the example, right? We eat quote unquote unhealthy or bad food. We don't feel that well, and we can kind of see the tangible effect of what it's like if we eat, poor food, right? We know that, I don't feel well, I don't operate well, I get sick, and this and that. Well, this applies to everything that our attention is upon. That's why the fourth book is the law of attention. That's why I'm going to be talking about this. So whatever our attention is upon, we draw that into our beingness, and we become a container and a holder for that resonant frequency. So everything our attention is upon, and that's why I say the attention is the new oil. This is a war for your attention, for you to be distracted, for you to be pulled in this direction and then this direction and this direction. The attention is never on the I am, upon and within the I am directly. That's the key. That nothing else is. Absolutely nothing else is. So when we start to gain self-control and self-discipline over our attention, we won't be able to be messed with in any way. Everything our attention is upon becomes our reality. Everything our attention is upon. And you cannot create something other than what your attention is upon. You cannot create something other, because you draw it into your beingness and you resonate with that frequency. This is so important to understand. The purveyors of the matrix understand this very well. They understand it very well. I want to make sure that everyone is equipped with the supreme metaphysical teachings so they can then transcend all of this programming and then actually own their own life.
Wow, that's beautiful. And so I guess the only way to discern whether or not what we're consuming is good is the lighter and freer thing, right, RJ?
I would say that's the simplest way to go about it. If what you hear, see, watch, etc., doesn't make you feel lighter and freer, then it's not the truth. Because the I am is formless, it is unconditioned, it is eternally free. So anything other than that you're putting your attention upon, if it doesn't resonate with the I am, with the self, the one self within us all, then it's downstream. And some of these things are way, way downstream from the source point within ourselves. So if we don't feel lighter and freer, right, then it's downstream. And then therefore then it's not going to be germane to who and what you really are. It'll be part of some narrative or agenda of something that's way downstream from the truth.
RJ, let's transition a little bit. What are your thoughts on the way that technology is advancing, with robotics and AI? And as these things evolve, how does that affect our own evolution as well?
Oh, okay. We could talk for hours on technology. And okay. So I guess the first thing that is wanting to be expressed is that all of us would be operating in a much more high frequency way if we didn't rely upon technology. So what do I mean by that? If we didn't use our phones so much, our telepathic powers would come back online rather quickly. So we would be able to communicate with one another telepathically, but we've become so reliant on technology, on something outside of the self, instead of focusing attention on and within the I am, which is everything, all higher intuitive functionality, which we'll go over in that course, the Master of the Mystic Arts. All higher intuitive functionalities are part of the I am. They have nothing to do with the physical body. So when we put attention on and within the I am, all of these functions, and then you do these specific things, they literally just kind of turn on. So we would have a lot more, we would be far more advanced from a metaphysical or spiritual, I hate that word, or a spiritual perspective if we were far less reliant upon technology, because it's actually keeping us from working on ourselves. So that's really, really important to understand. The other part is that technology has and can make our lives much simpler, and in that sense, better. Even though better is very subjective, but simpler, yes. So it depends on. There's a fine line there that we have to start to become aware, and it can be used to benefit, but it's never really going to allow us to touch the true self. It'll really give comfort and availability to more of the ego mind identity, to more of the human character. But still, technology can be extremely beneficial. It's really how it is that we're going to use it and what is the intention behind it. So it can't just be all technology is good. Anyone who says that is just, they've lost all discernment. They've lost all discernment, and they're just running a program. They just heard it somewhere and they're just regurgitating it. So technology can be wonderful. We have to be cautious. We have to discern. We have to understand what is the end goal. What are the possible ways that this can be used for very low frequency purposes, control, surveillance, right? There's a fine line in there. There's a fine line in there. But don't ever forget, the greatest technology that's ever been invented is our own consciousness when we work with it directly. It doesn't have any limitations. Technology has got limitations because it's downstream. But when we work with ourselves in the way that I talk about and outline, there are no limitations. None. So technology can be wonderful. It can also be a nightmare. So We have to have discernment. We have to understand the intention, how it can be abused. What is the end? What is the end goal? Don't think just immediately, how does this benefit me right now? Don't think that way. Don't think that way. Don't think in that short-term ego mind sort of, I want gratification now. That will really help us to determine what kind of technology we should avail our energies, our time, and our money into.
It just feels like all of that technology is advancing so quickly, RJ, that in the very near future, it's going to have more and more of a profound impact on our day-to-day existence. So, I guess just use discernment with regards to how we use it.
Well, you ask yourself, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Right? Ask yourself the question, what is it that I'm trying to achieve? Right? That will help you determine your use of technology. You are availing yourself of certain technologies. What is it that you're trying to achieve? Is it something very short term? Right? And if it is, then it's probably your ego mind that's seeking gratification. Most likely, not always, but it most likely is your ego mind requiring and needing instant gratification. So figure out what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then discover the root cause of that motivation. And then but this requires, again, introspection. This requires inner work. Everything does. It requires inner work. And then we will be so much wiser about everything that we do. And it'll be so much harder for us to be led astray when we work in this way. Some of the technologies that are going to come out are going to seem just absolutely mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Doesn't mean we should avail ourselves of them.
With a lot of these technologies, RJ, it feels like a lulling to sleep in a way. Like if we look at just like the invention of the grocery store, which is not like crazy technology, it's just the way that we consume our food now. Like we've gotten so far away from actually making the food, knowing how to store it, knowing how to preserve it, all those things. And then we look at like GPS. I couldn't go anywhere without GPS. I don't have maps anymore. I have nothing. So it just seems like the more and more technology that comes out, the more and more reliant we are, and the more further removed we are from, like you said, communicating telepathically or figuring things out on our own. So it feels like a crutch a little bit when we look at it from that perspective, right?
Yeah, and that's why I said to examine what is the driving force or the motivating factor for availing yourself of those certain technologies. Is it for this instant gratification? Are we really what we're doing? Is what we're doing just increasing personhood? Are we using this technology to increase personhood and become more and more disconnected from the I am or the God within? Right? That's what that is. God is within our consciousness. It is the I am. So if we're getting further and further away, I mean, listen, this is what the satanic agenda is. Let's be clear about this. It's to remove God from our consciousness by pulling us always outside of it, by harvesting our attention and then being implanted with narratives and programs. So we have to understand that this is where this can become nightmarish. So it's like, is it short term? Is it just really increasing my personhood? Am I using these technologies to just avail myself of more sort of bodily gratifications and cravings? Am I just using it that way? Substitute gratifications for the immeasurable I am. So this is not some kind of easy, quick fix. This is a great challenge for human beings. And if we work with ourselves properly, we'll always be steered in the right direction, because the intuition always knows. The mind, the finite conditioned mind, the reptilian brain, doesn't know anything, which is why it constantly wants more and more information, because it doesn't know anything, because this is disconnected from the source of knowing. So we want to attune this and this to this. And then our desire and how we use technology will be so different than how it is right now. But again, everything is this inner shift. Everything is this inner shift. And if our attention is always outwardly focused, eventually we're going to identify with what our attention is on endlessly. And then once we identify, we are attached. And then that becomes your master.
Wow. Beautiful, RJ. A little bit of a change in direction here. How important is numerology as it relates to the year that we're in? Can we, is there certain things that happen based on the year and the numbers and things of that nature?
Well, how important is numerology? Uh, I don't. Okay, I don't think any of those things are actually important. I think just working with yourself properly and optimally is the only thing that matters because it's what's going to dictate the quality of life that you experience and create for yourself. How you work with yourself. As soon as we go outside, and I don't really care what it is, right? We're downstream. We're not as centered and as powerful as we possibly can be. Like reading your horoscopes or numerology or whatever. That's fine. That's fine. Uh, it doesn't really put you in the most empowered state, which means it's not really the truth because the I am is total empowerment. It's God in action. And last I checked, God doesn't have any limitations. But if you make it about some sort of information outside of yourself and you make your state of being or your plans, the way in which you're going to create contingent upon something outside of yourself, I would just say that's not authentic. It's not really the truth. Again, it's downstream. Numerology can be, I don't know. I don't want to I guess it's helpful if you're using your ego mind. I don't know.
Same
That's
with
like,
zodiac signs then, RJ. Obviously, we're in a different year. It's not the year of the dragon anymore, you know?
well, the zodiac, I mean, these things are more of like a karmic blueprint of the planets that we have incarnated on. I mean, that's really what it is. And we could do a whole interview or a class or a course on that or whatever. But that's really what that is. It's just the karmic blueprint of where your higher self has incarnated is really what that is. Now, that could be helpful, but it's still ancillary from working directly as the I am. When you work directly as in total alignment with the I am, you will realize you need nothing because you are everything. And that everything is at your disposal moment to moment. And so this leaning on numerology or horoscopes or whatever, it's all very interesting and fascinating. It's more interesting and fascinating than the total garbage that is out there today. But at the same time, if we're putting our attention on something outside of ourself, it's still not the most direct way to empower and know the self. So I would say just keep that in mind.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. And obviously, read Access Super Consciousness because tangible, right? I think we get into all this information and it's not tangible, but if you want to have the tangible experience of these things, then you got to do the meditations in there. RJ, what fashion trends do you see coming back in 2025?
What fashion trends do I see coming back? I would say no. I'm not going to go there. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. I'm glad I censored myself. Nope. Next question.
Okay, here we go. This one is a nail biter too, RJ. Is
Oh, okay.
2025 the year that we finally get alien contact?
Okay. All right. So when I'm assuming when you say alien contact, you mean the controlled narrative of it being announced on mainstream media?
Well, I'd just like to make an alien friend, you know.
They're all okay. They've been here. They've been here forever. They will remain here forever. They're part. They have made themselves part of the human experiment in various ways. Aliens have had a lot to do with our. And remember, we're aliens. No one's from here. So even when we say aliens and human, I just think it's a misnomer. It's very misleading because no one's from here. No one and nothing is from the physical universe, right? Nothing is from here. It's projected here from the higher selves that exist in higher dimensions that project so they could experience physical reality. But aliens are always around, and they're not difficult to communicate with. They're absolutely not. They're more difficult to communicate with when you use physical sensory perception. So when you actually activate some of your higher intuitive functionality, it's easy to sort of tap in, communicate with them, see where they are. I'd be very leery of alien contact that is supported and reported by the mainstream media, which is completely and utterly controlled. So we've had lots of alien contact for quite a long time. And a lot of our matrix programming comes from a couple of types of aliens, the majority of which are actually want to see what's best for us. Some don't. But are we going to have an official? Are we going to have a supported agenda? I don't know. If they feel like it supports the agenda that they want to drive home, then they'll do it. If not, then they won't.
I just thought maybe there'd be like an alien like launch party, you know, where we could all get together and there's music and snacks, you know. That could be fun.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, could be. I would go to that party.
Now, RJ, what alien languages are you fluent in?
Pig Latin.
Oh,
Uh,
pretty
that
good.
that yeah, that's about it. Yeah,
I thought you
alien.
were Klingon.
No, I'm not fluent in Klingon. I mean, I would study it.
You
Maybe,
understand it, you just can't speak it, right?
but you know what? If I had to choose, though, I would get tutelage from Worf, who was the Klingon on the more recent Star Trek than probably Leonard Nimoy, which is the original Spock. I'd probably go with Worf. I think I would learn better from Worf for whatever that's worth.
One thing that I do love that you do, RJ, is you just cut through everything and take us back to what really matters and like knowing the self, right? And just like you say, everything else is downstream. And that's kind of like my next question is why do we care? Why do so many people care about alien contact? Or what do you think?
Well, I think because certain certain people or souls already know that this is the truth of what is, and so they can feel it, and in some sense they would like the confirmation of it, that they've always known that there aliens exist and that we interact with them and they interact with us. So I think part of it is just this, the confirmation of the inner knowingness. But if you already know, you don't need confirmation, right? As long as you know, that's good enough. So um, it could lead to very interesting collaborations between based upon their intention and based upon our intention, right? It could lead to some very interesting collaborations in terms of things like technologies or what I have found most interesting about interacting with aliens is that they also have belief systems and agendas, just like human beings do. So, in other words, aliens are not enlightened beings. They're not. So therefore, they're still working along their own way towards or on an evolutionary path to their own self-realization or enlightenment. So aliens are not enlightened or self-realized. So they too have agendas. They absolutely have agendas. They have ways in which that they operate, right? So in that sense, they're not that different. They are, but they're not that different than a non-self-realized or enlightened human being. That they're still operating with programs in terms of the way that they operate, what they feel is best based upon the beliefs and the concepts that they utilize. So, and that was actually the very reason why I became totally disinterested after a period of time of communicating with aliens. Is that I just felt like I was just answering their questions. So we want to work with ourselves in a masterful way. That's really the goal: to know thyself and all thy infinite potential. And so aliens aren't necessarily doing that. Most of them are not. So that's why it's not that, ultimately it's not that interesting. But there's so many different advanced species that exist that it will help us understand our role within the greater reality, and just how important the human experiment, which is the experiment in individualized free will, just how important it actually is because of what it does for all consciousness, not just when we are incarnate as a human. We play the most important role because of that experiment. So uh, there's all these different potentials about, in terms of quote unquote open contact, but I would be very leery of anything that is supported by mainstream media. That's all. I hope my desire is that open contact comes from um, individuals here that are working with themselves in an advanced way, and they don't have any ties to any organizations or any agendas except the flowering of their own consciousness. And so I hope that open contact comes from experiences like that, rather than something that is managed and controlled by some three-letter agency or government.
Well, they got to put their stamp of approval on it, RJ, or else it's not real. Last questions with regards to aliens. You said that they're already here, so technically we could coexist with them then, right? I guess that was my question. Could we all be here, or would they not want to hang out with us because we're like a lower level? You know?
Yeah, it just depends. Like that's the question's too broad because there's too many different kinds of aliens. There's lots of aliens that live within the earth. There's lots of aliens that live in the oceans. Most of them they're right here. They've always been right here. And again, if we adjust the electromagnetic frequency of our brain, we can tune into these different frequencies, and we can actually see and interact with these beings. And that was the excuse me, that was one of the devices that was a carryover from Atlantis. There was a carryover that went to super advanced ancient Egypt, was this technology. Just think of a radio, or a small radio. And when we turn the dial on the radio, obviously we pick up a different frequency. So there was a technology that, again, was a carryover from more of the more advanced aspects of Atlantis that ancient Egypt used. And they would turn this dial and it would raise the entire frequency of the local environment. And so as the dial got turned, it's almost like, as an analogy, a light goes on and then we can see that next frequency that is outside of physical sensory perception. And so every time you turn that dial, it's like another level, another level, another level, and another level was made available to us. And that was a technology that we had. So they're always here. And this is the chance, and that's where I was saying this is the chance for very interesting collaboration. This is part of why Atlantis and ancient Egypt, part of why they were so advanced, is because they were in constant communication with far more advanced beings. And so they would be able to learn directly from them, get understandings that we did not currently have by utilizing this device. Now, this device really is the I am. By tuning the electromagnetic frequency of our brain, and you could think of that as various levels of meditation, we can still do this. We could do it right now. Anyone could do it. Anyone can do it. So it could lead to fantastic collaborations. It could lead, but again, this is technology. So it more has to do with the attention on and within the I am. And that's the greatest efficacy of the evolution of consciousness possible, is when the attention is firmly focused on and within the I am and not anything outside of it. But by doing that, we can alter the electromagnetic frequency of our brain and start to take in more of what we are, because the outside reality is a projection from within your consciousness. So actually, you start to experience more of your own consciousness, because everything is contained within. The all is in the one and the one is in the all. So, and it's just projected outward. So that was a really long-winded answer. So hopefully I covered it for you.
I came here wanting to know about when I would see an alien, and I found out I was one. So
yeah,
what a day. You know what I mean? Yep. And I think a lot of that comes from like thinking someone's going to come in and save us, or they have some technology that's going to, revolutionize everything. But like we talked about earlier, the better the technology sometimes is not better for us and our own evolution. So
these advanced technologies will be in our hands once we are more responsible with how we work with ourselves and therefore each other. It's that simple. It's that simple. Supremely advanced technologies show up, whether it's given to aliens or they're invented from somebody or they're downloaded or they're given or they're found, all the same thing. When we start working with ourself in a more holistic and expansive fashion, because then we will be more responsible in regards to the actions that we take, because they will be more in alignment with our true desire and intention of our own evolution of consciousness. So these technologies will show themselves when we're ready to work with them properly and optimally.
So when we look at a guy like Tesla, was he working with himself in such a way that allowed for those technologies to come through then?
Yeah, absolutely. Nikola Tesla is um, his life plan, if you will, was to offer up, and he did, uh, tremendous advancements and inventions, and the main one being free energy to get, to move humanity out of the enslavement that it continues to put itself in. That was one of his main desires in terms of his life plan. Now he did discover how to do that. The ascend the frequencies healing technique about accessing these higher frequency energies and utilizing them for healing and self-realization work in almost the exact same way. It's almost works in the exact same way. Right. So these truths are always there. We just have to avail ourselves. But his shortcoming, if you will, as a way to say it, was that he didn't really play the game that was needed to be played in order to make sure that these technologies got out to the masses. He really thought that these discoveries, because they're so profound and how much they would impact humanity and its freedom, he thought that everyone would be excited about it as well. And that's not how it works. There's a bit of being naive on his part and not realizing what it is he needed to do in order to make this happen. And I think part of it is just that we just weren't ready. We just weren't ready. That's all. He was, but we as a species just weren't ready.
Man, I'd really like to get that free energy back. That sounds pretty good. So maybe one day, we'll see what happens. It seems like all these great ideas and inventions that would, save people a lot of money, they get crushed pretty quickly by people that look to profit. So anyway, RJ, shifting gears a little bit,
Mhm.
how can we make 2025 the best year of our life?
By getting to know what it is that's driving the core motivation that's driving our actions and behaviors, by asking yourself what is it that you're trying to achieve and understanding what is driving that behavior. So we have to start to differentiate between the programmed agendas that are part of our subconscious patterned egoic mind and what it is in terms of the desires and intentions that are true and germane to who and what we really are. So for us to have the best year that we could possibly have, it has to do with knowing ourselves more and operating more from the true self. And there are actual the books and the courses lay out how to do this. It's not just, I said that and it's like, oh, okay, I understand, but you don't have anything actionable, or there's no protocols, there's nothing tangible in regards to do. The teachings are here. The prescriptive protocols and teachings of how to do this are actually here. So when we work with ourselves in this way, our life will be more of a reflection of our own inner expansiveness, our love, our wisdom, our talents and abilities, and we'll be at a state of peace and equanimity rather than this constant grasping and yearning for something, always in need of something, always trying to fix or help, acquire or become, which is really the ego mind identity. So we make 2025 the best year of our lives when we start to work with ourselves properly and optimally. And if you understand that and you actually desire that, then pick up the books, take a class, take a course, because they are prescriptive. They actually show you how to do it, not just talk about it conceptually or some kind of uh, broad generalization of how these things actually take place. So we cannot receive what we don't give. Once we understand how to work with ourself directly, how to invest in ourself directly, the universe mirrors, matches, and amplifies that. And always being on the outside, seeing what can be garnered without any real investment is always going to leave us on the outside, because then the universe can only match and amplify what it's like to be on the outside because you haven't really invested in yourself. And so your reality will reflect that. It's that simple. We cannot receive what we don't give, and it's working within. Within. We pay attention to what we pay for. And just start to understand that. What happens to people's lives when they do this? I don't think the ego mind identity really gets this. I just don't think, and I don't think it can. I don't think it can.
I love it. Another thing is, what you put out is what you get back, right? How can you expect somebody to buy your product or service or whatever the case may be, and you want to invest in one for yourself? So, completely agree. Hey, 24 meditations in this, the tangible experience of all these teachings. RJ, if you could, can you just give us a brief synopsis of all 12 or 13 chapters in here? I'm just kidding.
They're good.
Okay, perfect. Okay. RJ, how much power do we have to proclaim something? Like, let's say that I started saying 2025 is going to be the greatest year of my life. And then everything that happened from day to day, I looked at that as like, that is further affirmations or further confirmations that 2025 is going to be the greatest year of my life. Can we really bring something about just by saying it and believing in it in that way?
No. Saying and believing, absolutely not. So you have to embody the resonance of that statement. That has to be an authentic statement that you resonate from within. So that's really what does it. Saying things and believing in things are weak. It doesn't make them true in any way. You still believe in Santa Claus? Right? Okay. So it has to be authentic resonance and alignment with the truth. You have to feel that statement in terms of the resonance of it, the truthfulness of that statement. And you have to be in authentic frequential resonance with it. Then you emanate that. And then the outer world will reflect that. So belief is not going to do it. Saying things is not going to do it. You could say all day long that 2025 is the year I turn into a beach ball. And you can believe that wholeheartedly. Guess what? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, right? But if you are in resonance, right, our speech should always be in perfect pitch in terms of it capturing our actual vibration. And that's how you know. And that's what we need to be in alignment with to create the reality that we truly desire. And part of the course that I'm going to teach on the metaphysics of money manifestation is going to go into great detail. It's going to dispel all this kind of stuff. We need to understand it. And it's not just about money. It's just energy. Everything is energy. But when we start to work with ourselves with metaphysical mastery of energy, then we realize that we can create everything, but it has nothing to do with saying it and believing it. That's completely and utterly irrelevant. It has to do with resonance, and it has to do with authenticity, and it has to come from within. And then we attune body mind to that in the resting and doing state, which is really the same thing. And that's the frequency that gets emanated that creates reality.
Can we just go back to that Santa's not real thing? RJ, who puts the who eats the cookies then? Let's be honest. I'm just kidding.
That's a good question. I think it's one guy that lives in Idaho who does make the rounds. I think it's just this one gentleman. He's the one that drinks all the milk and eats all the cookies.
Bernard, I think his name is.
Yeah, well, that's not his real name.
Okay. RJ, could this be why affirmations don't work for a lot of people? They don't actually embody what they're saying, or?
Well, okay. This I like this question because this is part of the current teachings that are not really effective. It's because our subconscious is responsible for 95% of the reality that we create. Okay. So we have layer after layer after layer of deep, deep programming that has been going on sometimes for eons of time, and certainly at least this incarnation from the very beginning that we get here. So this subconscious patterned egoic mind is what's running, and that's the emanation, and that's 95% of reality creation. It's actually a little bit more, but scientists today will tell you it's 95. It's closer to 98. That being said, layering affirmations on mantras on top of the programming that you already have going on is very, very ineffectual. It is not a reliable system for manifestation, because essentially what happens is you are now emanating, because of the subconscious programming, you're emanating that specific frequency, that song, right? And now you're adding some affirmations and mantras on top of it. So now what you're doing, you're emanating two songs, two different things. No one can dance to two songs at the same time. I don't know why we think the universe is going to be able to do it. So we're sending these mixed messages, old programming, new programming, old programming, new programming. So what these things are missing is the deprogramming aspect. And now again, if we go back to understanding the core motivation behind what it is that we're trying to achieve. And then once we illuminate if those core desires and intentions are what's been implanted within the subconscious mind, then we realize that we'll never actually achieve what it is that we truly desire, because we're not actually being authentic to who and what we really are. So there must be deprogramming. The layers of this must be brought into the conscious mind. It must be brought into the conscious mind. And so that's part of what is so vital to understand. Mantras and affirmations are ineffectual because of the song or the programming that we're already emanating, and we're just adding to that. We're conflating these two different things. And so, like I said, we're playing two different songs and no one can dance to that. And that's why the net result of doing this is poor for people. And that's why these teachings, so-called teachings, are not very effective.
I am a beach ball. I am a beach ball.
Yeah.
I really felt the balance on that one, RJ. You know what I mean? So
you're looking different since you said that.
I'm morphing. Maybe I could bring in some AI to make me well, we talked about technology, so be careful, but maybe AI could turn me into a beach ball, who knows. RJ, next question for you. If somebody wanted to make $1 million in 2025, what advice would you give them?
Okay. I would say that we don't make money a goal. Yeah, that's what I said. I would say make the sharing of something of great value that will improve the quality of people's lives the goal, and the money will be there. The money will be an ancillary effect of that, right? Those that are providing great benefit to others are the ones that are compensated in that way. So work with the idea of sharing something of such tangible value that it greatly changes the quality of people's lives. And if that's true and that's authentic, people will recognize that and they will happily engage in an energy exchange of what we would call money for the value that you're going to be offering. And that's all it is an energy exchange. Money is not good or bad. It's just energy, like everything is. And it's the relationship that we formed with it, and that it's outside of ourselves, and that money is the root of all evil and all this kind of stuff. And spiritual information should be free, and all these from a traumatized mind that has been separated, has been programmed with lack, is the reason why that continues to be said over and over again. Just an energy exchange. Offer something of great value. People will recognize it, and then they will exchange. There'll be an energy exchange for them to receive what it is that you're offering that has great value for them.
I think one of the hardest pieces for a lot of people, RJ, is charging according to what that value is. Like a lot of people cut it short, or they don't believe in it. So what would you say to somebody who maybe has something awesome to offer, but they don't want to, ask for what it's worth?
Well, that is a matter of lack of self-worth, which is always a direct correlation and in relation to our disconnection from ourself. So when someone is authentically themselves, they don't sell themselves short. When someone is disconnected from the self and they're operating from the false person who is also filled with separation, fear, lack, that's the character, or that's the one that is trying to gain confidence and lacks it, and therefore it doesn't require an investment that's befitting of the value that they will be sharing. So if we are hesitant or afraid, I'm going to teach a whole course on this. If we are hesitant or afraid to require an investment that and only we can determine what that investment is worth, not someone else. Only you determine what your skill, what your wisdom, what your energy is worth. But if we're connected to who and what we are, it becomes impossible to shortchange that self. It's the ego mind identity that is already separate and lacking confidence is the one that shortchanges itself. So it has to do, again, like everything else, it has to do with being authentic. It has to do with being authentic. And the other thing is that I feel like a lot of people might struggle with requiring an investment that they feel that what their value is actually truly worth in terms of an energy exchange. I think because they doubt the value of what it is that they're actually providing. And so they're not really sure that it is of great value. They don't really know it is of great value. And it could be because it hasn't done for them or worked for them in the way that they purport it will work for others. So if it's something coming directly from you, so it's not the regurgitation or the mimicry of other teachings and just kind of smashed all together, right? This is part of why some people within the spiritual community, this is why part of some people have a hard time requiring an investment of that is equivalent to the value that they're offering. It's because it's not really coming from them. So therefore, there is no real tangible value that's authentic to them either. And so therefore, that makes it difficult to require an investment that coincides with true value because they're disengaged from it themselves.
So how do we find that then, RJ? How do we find something of great value that's also true to ourselves to offer? Any shortcut to that you might have?
Yeah, it's normally what you're most excited and passionate about sharing and expressing. It's normally that. Not always. Not all. There's always outliers. There's always outliers, but I'm not talking about that. But normally, what you're most passionate and excited, what you're compelled and impelled to share, right? That's the direction to go in. And normally that will coincide with your true self because it's your true self that is truly passionate, that is truly excited, right? The ego mind identity is more just running programs, and that's not authentic excitement. That's not authentic passion. It's just a means to an end to acquire or become. This is different. This is sharing. This is expressing, sharing and expressing what it is that you've discovered about yourself that will help others do the same thing, and that's the value. And that's really the best way to operate.
Okay, excellent. Obviously, maybe a couple other things that might help: learning how to sell, learning how to market. I think those are pretty important things, So,
well, the first thing, by the way, the first thing about that is that the word selling just immediate people's skin crawls. It has such a negative connotation, and that's because we associate selling with just what we were just talking about. There's nothing of real value there. It's more about what the person doing the selling is going to get out of it, and not so much what the person who's going to make the energetic investment, what they're going to get out of it. So we have made selling a very negative word. Now, it's sharing value. That's really what it's about. And everyone should be extremely excited and passionate about sharing the value, about sharing the authenticity that they have discovered about themselves that have made tremendous changes in their life. Everyone should be excited about that. If you're not excited about that, then I would say you haven't really discovered anything of true value. So sharing value is the key. Knowing that what it is that you offer will greatly improve and help people in whatever facet or all the facets of their life. That's really what it's about. Selling has this negative connotation. I don't even think that word exists when someone is truly being who and what they really are. They're excited and they're sharing of what it is that they've discovered that have changed their lives that they know will change yours. That's sharing value. That's what it's about.
it's also a joy to be sold, think about anything that you have in your house. Like it's fun. I got sold something last night. I was scrolling around and they have these ear things, or do they go in with a little camera and people pull out like these giant wads of earwax, which is absolutely disgusting. But it got me thinking, like, what's in my own ear? And so I was like, I got to get this and test it out on myself and my family. So I was sold last night and I enjoyed the whole process. It was beautiful. So I think when you come from that perspective of the buyer, like what if no one ever sold you anything? No one ever showed you the value that they had in anything. That'd be terrible. Like everything in our life comes from this microphone, the camera, like the computer, everything was because there was extreme value and they sold it the right way. Right.
Right. Energy exchange.
Right.
Energy exchange. And the common energy exchange that we use on this planet is money, which is just energy. That's all it is. I have deeply investigated this, as you know, deeply investigated the enlightened metaphysics of manifestation, just like I unparalyzed myself. And same manifestation with money. It works the same way. And what I have discovered that the deeper and deeper you look, the more you'll realize that money is innocent of everything you've ever accused it of. And that it's just an energy exchange. Now, once we can feel that and know that, watch what starts to happen in terms of your life. when it's no longer this, and that's what these courses on money manifestation are about. It illuminates these things and gives people the actual homework, as you know, homework assignments and protocols to do these things, to bring what has been programmed into the conscious mind for you to look at it and realize how untrue that doesn't come from you. And then we're removing these layers of the subconscious programming, which is the 95% reality creator. And essentially, as a visual or an analogy, you think about a hose, right? A hose that is all kinked up with all these beliefs, all these relationships, right? That we've made. That hose, that is the kinking of the hose. There's no flow. There's very little flow goes through that hose. So as we deprogram and recognize all these beliefs, all these different concepts, all these different attachments, and the only way to do it is actually through exercises, not just saying it. Not just understanding what I just said conceptually or mentally that's not actually the work that needs to get done. But once you start to peel away, the hose just starts to become less and less kinked. And now we have this flow. And now the giving and receiving is seen as one thing. And now all of a sudden our so-called, I'm not going to say material life, because this applies to your love life, your personal life. It applies to energy, because it's a universal law in terms of the more relationships we form, the more constricted and the less flow, right? So when we start to work with ourselves in this way and not just understanding it mentally, we'll start to realize that our so-called life that we're having in terms of our abundance, we have an abundance of programming, abundance of lack, and abundance of limitation, of doubt and worry. So we have just complete and utter constriction. So as those are peeled away, the hose becomes unconstricted and there's flow, and it's perpetual flow. And that can be maintained in a state of unending momentum.
Speaking of hose, RJ, remember the info commercial for those hoses that would just, like, when they were turned off, they would just shrink to a really small size?
Yes.
And then when you turn them on, they would, like, imagine not being sold. Imagine no infomercials. How much do we enjoy infomercials where they're selling us something cool that is going to benefit our life? So just to go back to anybody that's afraid to sell or afraid of selling or offering their value in exchange for money, it's so fun. Like, how fun are infomercials? I enjoy them from time to time.
My life has never been the same since ShamWow.
Or Slap Chop. I mean, come on.
Right.
Yeah. So, exactly. Yeah. Have you ever seen the one with the boat? There's like a boat and he like has a hole in it and water's like coming in and he takes like this duct tape and just rubs it right on the side and the water completely stops. Anyway, they got some great inventions.
No.
Okay. RJ, what is your New Year's resolution?
Oh, I don't do New Year's resolutions. Those are normally fixing, helping, acquiring, and becoming. So those are normally things born of personhood, right? Again, there's just what is and what isn't. And so it's about being as present as possible and allowing the I am to unfold and unfurl itself continuously. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's a resolution. It's more what is. And I think the idea of being in alignment with who and what you are and allowing the flow and the momentum will go so far beyond some kind of New Year's resolution that the actor who's performing an action is trying to acquire or become. And you'll find meaning and purpose within the actions that you take when it's in alignment with who and what you are, and you won't need resolutions.
Do goals kind of fall in the same vein, RJ? Should we not strive to set goals or achieve goals?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would not say that. Things that are definable and measurable within the construct of time, I think can be helpful in terms of finding out what works and what doesn't work in terms of what you're trying to achieve. So I would not say to just get rid of goals, but I would also say that any goal is a limitation, no matter how big it is, because a goal is always based upon a past, and that past then becomes your future. So any goal is a limitation, but that being said, they can be helpful if it's measurable, if it's tangible and measurable, a metric that can be used within the construct of time as a way to chart progress. And that progress really is in relation to what works and what doesn't work in terms of what you're trying to achieve. So in that sense, goals can be very helpful.
How important are factors outside of our control for how our year will ultimately turn out? Is everything in our control, or like the government and politics and inflation and economy, do they play any roles in any of that?
Well, we have to come to the understanding, to the realization that there is no outside world. It's just a projection that comes from within your consciousness and is projected out there. And until we really know this, I mean, we're gonna be able to set ourselves up to fall victim or to be prey for any kind of agenda or implementation of a narrative. So when we understand there is no outside world, it's a projection that is happening within your own mind that gets projected outwardly. So I think we started off talking about never let something outside of your control occupy your mind. So I pay absolutely, for whatever that's worth, I pay almost absolutely zero attention to what is going on. Just every now and then I'll pick up, and I have I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I play a certain role when I come here. So certain things, it's probably worth my attention to be keyed in on, so I can offer my insights to what's happening. So in that sense, I have some sense of a responsibility to pay some level of attention to we'll call it world affairs, but it's very little, but it's enough for me to, well, I guess we'll say, tap in and then offer some insights as to how to best operate with this running in the background. Focus on what is most important to you. And that is our state of being, our moment to moment state of being, and never make it reliant upon something outside of yourself, because the things outside of yourself come and go. That's the nature of existence, is change. The only real constant is the awareness of the change. So it's to reside the attention upon and within the awareness itself, right? The time-lapse camera. And then this coming and goings, it won't disempower you or empower you. And therefore, you're never relying upon an exterior stimulation or motivation. It's this perpetual flow and momentum that has nothing to do with the outside world. Oh, I should open a business now, or I should not. The economy this, the economy that. That's got nothing to do with anything. Unless you tell yourself. If you believe that to be real and true, guess what? It will be real and true for you. It'll exactly occur for you in that way. 100%. So again, these are things that we have to uncover. And that's why I go over these things in the classes and courses, so you can actually see these things and then do a certain exercise to have the tangible experience and then realize it yourself. So focus, put the attention on and within the I am. Everything else will take care of itself.
There you go. RJ, anything else we want to mention with regards to 2025 being the 0 point for humanity? Anything else that's important?
Yes, July 16th is National Hot Dog Day.
Oh my gosh. How could we forget?
So that, I think,
which means the 15th is the eve of National Hot Dog Day. And if we've learned anything from these holidays, the eve is almost more important than the holiday. So
yeah. So I would say that's something to really be aware of. It's National Hot Dog Day.
My dog water's ready, RJ.
So, yeah. I'll have my hot dog glasses. And then, of course, July 15th would be National Hot Dog Day's Eve. So I would say these are things we want to put our attention upon, is National Hot Dog Day.
Get your wieners out, you know.
There you go. Well said. Well said.
Have a way with words sometimes.
Yeah, a wordsmith, if you will.
If you will. Anyway, but obviously, you guys sign up for the global meditations if you haven't already. Like I said, the last one that we did on weather, absolutely incredible. Highly recommend you do that meditation. And also check out Master of the Mystic Arts course that's going to be coming up. Be sure to sign up to be notified. Anything else you want to mention, RJ?
Yeah, there'll be wait lists for the Metaphysics of Money Manifestation and a wait list for Master of the Mystic Arts. They will improve your lives in a way that you can't really imagine at the moment. So the link to join the wait list will be in the comments. And just start to become supremely mindful of your attention. because where your attention goes, your energy flows. And wherever your energy flows, it grows. Right? So this is part of becoming a masterful creator, is understanding the incredible power, and with that responsibility that we have in terms of the evolution of our temporarily individualized consciousness, which is part of the collective consciousness, which is God. And what God is obsessed with, and my fourth book is what I call unification with God. We'll hear from God directly, in ways that we've never heard God speak. God is obsessed with its own evolution. Absolutely. And I am obsessed with the evolution of consciousness. It's past obsession. It's past it. So what it is that we talk about is the greatest efficacy in terms of the evolution of consciousness. And what that means is the greatest quality of life. That's what that means, the greatest quality of life. And so we must start to become mindful of our attention, because attention is energy. Where your attention goes, your energy flows, and where your energy flows, it grows. Only put your attention upon what it is that you want to grow. I got an idea. Put it on and within the I am. That's the key to the greatest 2025 that we could ever have.
All this is great, RJ, but if we don't get that cookie recipe in 2025, what was this whole thing for? You know?
You're right. You know what? Let's do this over. Just delete this interview. Let's start over and focus our attention on chocolate peanut butter cookies.
Yes, with the coconut shavings, like you said.
With coconut shavings, absolutely. I do want to do a couple of videos of baking or cooking. I do. There's a bit of a setup, as you know, like with the cameras and this and that, and so. But it'd be fun to do for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can make it happen. So anyway, if you guys are interested in any of that, we need a word of the day, RJ. What's our 50 center? You got to have a good one for us.
Oh boy, our word of the day. How about efficacy? Is that good?
I like efficacy. The more syllables, the better. Efficacy is really good, though, I think.
The more syllables, the better. So more is better.
Equanimity. What about that one?
Okay, equanimity. Yeah, I like that word. I mean, more is not better, though.
True.
It's just more.
The depth, right?
But yeah, the richness and depth of the experience. Yeah, but equanimity. Equanimity is a really good word. I even like the way that just kind of flows. Equanimity. That's better. That's better than efficacy. Equanimity is better.
Feels like a summer's day a little bit. So use equanimity down in the comment section below in a sentence, or it doesn't count, right, RJ?
Yeah, almost like Old Spice. Remember the Old Spice commercials? Equanimity. You could splash on some Old Spice.
Didn't they used to have like a whistle? Yeah.
Yes, and then if you get carried away with the Old Spice, you can get your ShamWow and clean it up. Bang!
I think that's the biggest thing I took from this interview was the infomercial talk.
Yeah.
So, all right, RJ, thank you so much. I always appreciate it.
Likewise, it's fun when we speak. Thanks, Justin. I appreciate it.